But anyway, we will have Jim on with us in a couple of minutes. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk to Jim about this. The Supreme Court actually had a ruling today on campaign contributions. And it actually said that corporations have practically an open field in how much they can contribute to political campaigns. And that's a huge problem. It was a decision 5-4, and it was split between conservatives and liberals, as they call them. But to me, ladies and gentlemen, you know, what had happened is the biggest loss for you, the voters in this country, because ultimately you end up going to the polls. I never seen a corporation actually marching down to the ballot box and casting its vote. But they will be able to buy your vote, actually. And that's where it's a huge loss for the country to have the Supreme Court actually rule on this, that corporations, there's no limit practically to how much corporations can actually contribute to a political campaign. Why is it a loss? Because they're going to be able to, you have insurance companies, you're going to have the drug companies, you're going to have all special interests with lots of money, a lot more than you and I can ever dream of having, and they will be able to practically run all the ads they will to basically defeat a candidate that is not playing by their rules. And, I don't know what kind of democracy we will have if that actually happens, and it will now, with this ruling by the United States Supreme Court. And, it's sad when we have activist judges on the Supreme Court. And it's amazing how the media can basically direct you into whichever way they want. They want you to go and drink tea somewhere in those tea parties. Those tea parties, even though most people who go to these tea parties, they are sincere people who want to change. But the problem is right now is, when it's directed by the Fox network, that's when I have a problem with it. And as you know, most of these are directed by the Fox network. When Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck is in the forefront marching for these parties or whatever, to me that is a controlled opposition. That is an opposition that is somebody is directing people. Now, hopefully that with the likes of Jim Traficant, who is out with lots of energy and who is actually working on changing this. We do have Jim Traficant on the line with us. Jim, welcome to the program.
Cheers. My honor to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. Jim, I was just telling our viewers about a ruling that the United States Supreme Court actually just did today, which is basically opening the gate wide for corporations to donate money for like campaign donations and contributions. What do you think this will do to the country? Are we going to be seeing the best government that money can buy?
We already have that, Doctor, but that's ridiculous. I think when it comes to the Congress, I think there should be a reform in this manner, that only funds can be raised from the congressional district in which the candidate runs. Too many big groups that reach in and they end up controlling the Congress. Now, I've been labeled an anti-Semite because I've stated that the powerful American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, powerful lobby, controls Congress. And I'm not an anti-Semite, but they do control Congress. And I think the only people that should control the Congress of the United States are the American people. So these types of rulings, I'm not surprised. The whole country has gone, in my opinion, away from the Constitution and away from the concept of taking care of our country and ensuring our country so that our great freedoms can survive. And we've really deviated from that path.
Now, Jim, you've been away for 7 years now. Can you just briefly, we're not going to dig too much into that because we have a lot more important stuff to talk about, but just tell our viewers what happened to Jim Traficant. Why was he targeted?
Well, number one, I was targeted since 1983, being the only American in history to ever defeat the Justice Department in a RICO trial, pro se, without being an attorney. So they had been trying for years to put me in prison. But then I brought John Demjanjuk home from Israel, who was convicted and sentenced to death as Ivan the Terrible. And, Doctor, I proved through my Freedom of Information Act and other machinations within the government to get documents and prove that he was innocent. And let me tell you how powerful the Israeli lobby was and the Israeli control over our government. The Sixth Circuit Court in Cincinnati would not accept my evidence, and Congress would not hold a hearing. I ultimately sent it to the Supreme Court of Israel and went to Israel on behalf of Demjanjuk. And when I was there, I did a live TV broadcast with the Today Show and Brian Gumbel. And I basically said that Israel, if they put this man to death on the strength of the evidence that I had uncovered, that they would lose $20 to $25 billion a year. And I'll never forget it because Brian Gumbel said, "What do you mean $25 billion? They only get $3 billion." And I said, "Brian, $3 billion is $6,000, $5,000 for every man, woman, and child in Israel." And I said, "That's just foreign aid." I said, "No one's looking at loans converted to grants, economic compacts, trade compacts, military assistance." I said, when it's all done, I said, the American taxpayer is spending $20,000 to $25,000 every year to every Israeli citizen and their government. And I said, this is ridiculous. And I said, you put this man to death, and this blood is going to come back to haunt you. Let me tell you something, Doc. I got a call that night and said, he'll be in Tel Aviv. Take him home. And I brought him home. And he made one target of American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee. And they couldn't beat me with a gun, Doctor. They put me in prison.
Okay. Now, let's get into today. What is Jim Traficant working on today?
Well, I'll probably run back for Congress, but I'm also working with American Free Press out of Washington, D.C., and they're hosting a national town hall event, and I'm headlining that event. And the goal is, and I've got to give American Free Press a lot of credit, they've taken the lead, and they're trying to create a viable third party, independent party in the United States of America, and it's desperately needed. This Republican and Democrat Party, they're so much alike, it's really a joke. And what's happening is you'll find that years ago the Democrats fell out of favor and they elected the Republicans, and Newt Gingrich and his crew come in. And then the Republicans fell out of favor. They didn't change much. They were thrown out. The Democrats come in. Now you have the Democrats in, and the people are fed up with them. But what they don't realize, all they keep doing is going back and forth to basically the same principles and policies, just with a different headline, a name of it, Republican and Democrat. I think the nation needs desperately a political third party that can in fact be viable. It would bring some order and make these two parties more respectful of the actual needs of the American people and bring some discipline to government. In fact, we got a hell of a problem here, Doc. And I want to commend you, your network, for not being afraid to address these salient points, because anybody mentions Israel, my God, you're labeled an anti-Semite. Anybody that talks about the problems with the country, my God, be careful. People are afraid in America to even whisper.
Congressman, let me ask you this and be blunt about it. Do you think if you are not favoring Israel and if you're not favoring AIPAC, do you think you stand a chance in being elected? And also, do you think you stand a chance in creating a third party unless you are catering to Israel? I mean, let's face it.
But you know what, Doc? Somebody's got to come forward and it's got to try and educate the American people. And nothing personal against Israel, but they shouldn't control America. Now, let me make this statement. I want you to listen to it. I want all your viewers to listen to it. This statement was not made by a talk show host, nor a comedian, nor some diplomat. Listen to the statement. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it. That statement was made on October the 3rd, 2001, by Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, and it never appeared in an American newspaper other than American Free Press and the precursor to Spotlight. I don't know when the Free Press was constituted.
Congressman.
Think about that. I had a state we control America.